Good morning, COLLABCAST listeners. This is Captain Dave Jackson coming to you from sunny, and I do mean sunny, Hendersonville, Tennessee, part of Nashville. Today, I'm super pumped to have Margeaux. Is it Giles or
You got
Giles?
it. It's Giles.
Giles. I would have said Giles, but somebody else said your name Giles. I'm like, I don't think.
Yep.
But I always want to be sure.
Nope. You got it.
Margeaux, thank you for jumping on for your helicopter and joining us here on the airwaves today.
I'm never going to
We'll
live
talk
that
about
down.
that story.
Never going to
No,
live
that's the coolest story ever. Yeah. So, but before we get to that, and before we get into business talk, let's have our listeners learn a little bit about you. So, tell right from the start, where were you born and raised?
Tampa, Florida. So I will challenge you on the sunniness because it's beautiful outside here today.
And you're in Tampa now. You're joining us from Tampa.
I am. Yep.
Awesome. We are completely sunshine, and 82 today is almost picture perfect. So it's been that way all week.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Good for you. So Tampa, and you haven't left town? You stayed in town the whole time?
No, I moved all over the place, but when I wanted to have my kids, come back, be close to family and stuff like that. And Tampa's not a bad place. I mean, we got beaches, we got sports. I mean, we got everything. So.
Yeah, for sure. IAOA had our annual conference there 2 years ago. Or two conferences ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually had signed, probably before COVID, with the Marriott downtown, the JW, which is brand new.
Brand new, yeah.
The Marriott's right across the street. They're connected by a skywalk across the street. And the Marriott's on the water, and the JW's right across the street from that. So when we visited, it was under construction. It wasn't only 20 stories high, and I think it's 36
It's
or
done.
37
It's beautiful
stories.
now. It's gorgeous down there.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But when we visited, it was before COVID. And so COVID hits, and we're like, oh, my gosh, are you going to be finished? And they're like, we have to. Because we have to finish before Christmas because in February, the Super Bowl is here, and we are the NFL's headquarters for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So there is no chance we're going to miss our finish date. I think it was October the year before. But we were supposed to be in January then, the week before the Super Bowl.
Yes.
This is in 2021? 2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago. Yeah.
And COVID bumped us. We couldn't hold it in January. So, but of course, the Super Bowl was held with no fans in the stadium.
Yeah, I was there.
And then,
in the no fan, like it's.
Yeah, there were very few fans.
It was disappointing
Eerie,
because anytime your city gets the Super Bowl, I mean, we had it a couple, I think 10 or 15 years prior, and it was just a blast to be here during Super Bowl. And we got missed all of that.
Oh, it's a major party. Major.
Yeah.
That was too bad. So we then tried to say, okay, we'll bump it to April, and that didn't happen. COVID said no. So we ended up pushing it all the way back to November in the same year. And so we were there almost a year after they opened the JW when we were supposed to be there just a month or two after it opened.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my Tampa story. So, but I've been to Tampa a few times. It's a gorgeous city. We love it.
Yeah. Come down and visit.
Absolutely love it. And I've got a lot of friends that are there too.
Yeah.
For sure. So, school, education, did you go to school in Florida? Or
I went to
town
Florida State and USF. Yeah, I'm a fully entrenched Florida girl.
Okay. Are you a Seminole?
I'm a Seminole,
USF?
and I'm a Seminole, and my husband is a graduate of UF. He's a Gator. And so we are a divided home.
Oh, how do you do that?
Well, we got one. He got my daughter, and I got my son. So we had just fully split down the middle. So on game day, it's always interesting.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that's like having an Ohio State Michigan household. You just almost can't exist.
Yep.
So yeah, that's hard. I know what that's like. But the Miami Hurricanes are I guess one of your third biggest rivals in the state. But you don't have to deal with them much anymore. You used to, but
no,
not
in the last 10 or 15 years.
No,
Yeah.
So you have a son and a daughter. How old are they?
My son is 8, my daughter is 11, so I'm in full, like, almost teenager momentum in the house, which is fun. Lots of TikTok.
You got a preteen.
I have preteen, yeah. Lots of Fortnite and stuff like that. So that's where we are right now.
Fortnite. Fortnite's a video game that you folks that aren't in parenting mode right now. So that's the cool stuff, huh? In your household. That's cool.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're in the insurance industry. What was your very first day to enter the insurance industry?
I was a CSR, or so like a customer service rep, actually for my husband before he was my husband, on the commercial insurance side. So, yeah, I've been in.
He was the agency owner.
He was just a sales. He was just an agent at that point. This is a long time ago.
Oh,
I want to date myself, but
Gotcha.
yeah, that was so. I've been in insurance for 15 years.
Okay, started out as a CSR. You didn't plan that, did you?
No, I did not. I had exited from a company. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I had exited previously from a company, and I had taken some time off and wanted to come back, and had done some dabbling in insurance previously, and met my husband and said, "Sure, let's go sell commercial insurance." So he wasn't my husband then, but eventually I wrangled him, and now he can't get rid of me. So. And now we have, we ended up purchasing the agency, and we run our own agencies now. We have agencies under umbrellas, and so yeah, most of them are in Florida. But yeah, so been entrenched in insurance in all the ways possible, and have recently branched out into the tech side. So that's what I'm doing now. Right.
Yeah, we want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. So how much time do you spend in your agencies now?
Me, very little. My husband's fully entrenched on the agency side, and I've really taken a little bit of a sidestep onto the tech side to building out all of the process and procedure around our agencies and how we operate, and then doing a pivot right now to see if we can bring that to market for other agency owners, since we had success with it, and it's kind of where we're at. But I get I always get the IT calls now. So they're like, hey, the computers are down, or the printer doesn't work. And I'm like, guys, I'm on the software side, not necessarily on the IT department, but I keep getting those emails. So, I do what I can when I get those.
Margaux's IT department.
Exactly. What's our password? I forgot it.
So why... well, you're wearing all hats. So when you start an agency, that's what you do. You wear 100%. All the hats.
Yep.
Until you've got a chance to share those hats or spin those hats off to others.
Yep.
Whether it be other new employees or maybe someone you hire as a service or a vendor for that. And some of us still have to wear all those hats. We like being small.
Some of us never really let them go, no matter how big.
As much as possible.
Yeah, even when you get big, it's still, I always had a problem because so my husband does more of the sales. So, as far as, sales process and procedure and how he ends up closing accounts, that's really more of his domain. I was always just fully invested in operations and how do we be efficient? How do we streamline? How do we automate? And I think that kind of led me obviously onto the tech side of things. Technology is a huge part of that process. But I'm a firm believer in sort of those two branches on an insurance agency, coinciding. There has to be a good synergy between the people that are out there selling and then how we actually get those policies into the agency and how they become relationships and long-term, strategic partnerships. So we had a good dynamic of him going out and then bringing them to me and then me nurturing the relationship and making sure they stayed on our books for a really long time through the operation. So I think that was a good synergy there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell me the story of GoGiles.
Yes, GoGiles. So it was funny because when I started the process, after we had the agency and we were now fully in charge of operations, I had this grandiose plan, and I wanted to 5x revenue, and I wanted to get us to a place that we had both envisioned. And in order to do that, one of the first things I did was go out and look at technology. At the time, we were with Applied Epic. I think we had kind of forayed into 360 or QQ Catalyst at some point, but there was a subset of things, and you got to remember at this point we were we're probably 60-40 commercial to personal lines. So we're P&C focused, but we had a really big footprint on the commercial side. And for anybody that's listening that does commercial insurance understands that there's a lot of technology and point solutions that are very geared towards personal lines, rating engines and marketing tools, and even AMSs that kind of focus really on that particular part of P&C. But once you veer into, $5,000, $10,000 above premium on the commercial side, it's still very, very, very manual. And so with that point, I was looking for any type of solution that could help me streamline the growth on the commercial side, and there just wasn't anything that I needed out of the box. So I fell into the trap I feel like a lot of people fall into when they make this journey, which was Salesforce, right? So we were like, okay, Salesforce is going to solve all of our problems. I'm going to go get a Salesforce. I swear to God, Dave, I think Salesforce had like an army of people that only focused on insurance like 3 to 5 years ago.
Thousands and thousands.
They went out and they signed up everyone on the insurance vertical, but then you signed up and it was like nothing there, and you would get the Salesforce and it just did nothing, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? And so there was just no follow-up whatsoever. And so for us at the time, we were relatively small agency, and we only had 10 or so agents within our agency, and there was no like software budget. I didn't have engineers. I didn't have, what I'm saying, like a software development outfit in our agency. And so it fell on me to learn how to configure Salesforce. We were kind of at the point of no return with Salesforce. And so I did that. And
you have an extremely analytical mind if you can handle that task.
Very much so. And I like to tie process and procedure to result. So this is where my husband and I just like wildly, he's just like shoot on the hip, and he'll go out and sell something and hand it to me. And then I must understand like how the process works, and, where is it succeeding? Where is it failing? Which I think is important for anybody in ops, but we just didn't have that kind of visibility in any of the software. So, you buy the Salesforce, whatever platform it is, and you want to run the analytics and understand, is this marketing effort working? Or, is this, in our case, we had developed niche business within a commercial insurance. So at the time we were very heavy in telecommunications, underground digging, construction. And had I not been able to analyze our book and realize that we had this niche that was sort of developing, I think we might have missed it. So I put a lot of stake in the operations and analytics side of running an agency, especially when you get to a certain level. But yeah, we fell into the trap. So I was on this like one woman mission to find InsurTech that was one broker facing, because there's a lot out there that's just broker. We're always like the redhead stepchild of InsurTech.
For sure.
And then two, commercial focused, which again, I think the complexities around it make it really difficult. So I met a bunch of cast of characters, many I'm sure people, your listeners know, but ended up opening an LLC and telling my husband, like, listen, there's a lot of InsurTechs out there that think they know the problem that they want to solve for a broker, but they don't know the insurance side of it. So I'm going to go and I'm going to be a subject matter expert and try to, help push the stuff forward, because I need it. We need it in our agency. And, started this little LLC, and it just went bananas. I mean, we were getting hired left and right. We ended up with 10 full-time consultants underneath us. It became a multi-million-dollar consulting firm in 2 years. And I realized at that point in time that us brokers as a whole, like, we had a huge problem on our hands. Like, carrier technology was moving forward. Everybody was building out API integrations, and then it comes to there was so much going on in underwriting and claims and all of this wonderful, technology. And then when it got to the broker, everything just died. And there was no connectivity to that broker ecosystem, because the systems that we were all using and are still using don't allow for that really like ecosystem like connectivity. And so what people are
They're
doing,
called legacy systems
yes, and what they're doing
for the
is
folks that don't know.
they're all building like these just wild workarounds, right? Instead of solving the problem and demanding that these systems do what we
Patchwork.
need them, they're patchwork, and it can be, I'm sure people, it's incredibly expensive. It's fragile. It breaks all the time. It's jinky. Nobody likes it. So after, 5 or 6 years of doing all of this stuff, we said, we're going to fix, like, I'm going to fix this because I can't do what I need to do with my agencies. I know other agencies can't function either. And until we all decide to demand better access, then we're just going to stay in this sort of death loop of legacy. And so we built Irys, and that's kind of where I'm looking at now launching in July our AMS that it was many, many years and many people to get together to coordinate, like, how do we build a open ecosystem, right? How do we build a platform that really focuses on allowing all the other insurtechs that are in the market that are solving like particular issues for the agent, right? They're solving 1 or 2 point solutions is what we call them. And they have nowhere to go. They have no way to integrate, right? They're not able to integrate into Applied. They're not able to integrate into Vertafore. And so they're just on these islands alone. And we need to give them a place that they can build an ecosystem around. And that's kind of the philosophy behind what we're building. And that was like it was a really good progression from understanding agent operations intimately for, 15 years and then moving into building out the solution. And that's kind of how we got here.
So you're the perfect person to take on this challenge. So just so I understood it right and our listeners understand, GoGiles was a result of your agency grabbing Salesforce, and you just needed a consultant to be able to tell Salesforce how to do its job.
Right. We needed help understand,
right?
like, because most agency owners and even ones of size, right? Like even large agencies, they're insurance companies. They're not software development companies. You can't get two companies more across the spectrum than somebody that's working on insurance and then somebody's working on software build. I mean, the ecosystems, the cultures of those companies, the needs of those companies, I mean, they're just wildly different. And
polar opposites.
Polar opposites. And insurance companies, at the heart of everything, they don't want to be software companies. They don't want to build their own software. They don't want to maintain their own software. And they shouldn't have to, because we should have better options. And so
exactly.
Yes,
I just want to sell shit. Just let me sell. That's what I used to scream for years.
Yeah, let me sell.
I've owned 5 agencies, all from scratch, in my illustrious career. And when you start as an agency owner, you do have to wear all the hats. We talked about this earlier, and I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to sell. I love selling, and the whole work in your agency versus on your agency, I don't even buy that. I say, I want to do what I love to do. I can be an agency owner, but I'll hire a manager. I'll hire somebody to do this and that, but I want to sell. I want to be, I don't want to work on my agency. I still want to be in my agency.
And most of them
whatever suits you.
Yeah, if you look at
most of them,
most agency owners have that exact dynamic. They are, and we had the same, my husband and I had the same progression, which was, we didn't become we didn't start as agency owners. We started building a book of business and then eventually built it into an agency. And that's the most common way. And the best way to do that is to be really good at sales. And so you have a bunch of agency owners that, and we see this all the time, when we're out with the AMS and doing things like that. It's like, the operation side is what is typically neglected. And so a lot of times we see with agencies, like, they'll have great new business practice, really good intake, but once that new business goes in to the AMS or to whatever platform it is you're using, that's when we start to see the drop off, right? And retention, maybe you come back and save them at, renewal, but there's a whole piece of that throughout the year where you have the potential to build really strong relationships with insureds that I feel like a lot of agency owners don't necessarily see the value in right away, right? Because they're looking at, we sold the policy's good, does the policy renew? And that's kind of the mentality that they're stuck in. But when I dug into the operations side, there was so much meat on the bone there, not just to retain the risk, but to get to sell more. So if I do a great job for you and I'm constantly keeping up with you and we have a rapport and you refer me to your brother or sister or business partner, I mean, that is, to me, that is the most key part of how we build our agencies, is that in between, not the first sale and not the renewal, but all the stuff that happened in between. And so that a lot of that went into building of the AMS. So you'll see a lot of workflows and pings and processes that are like, hey, after the sale, we're going to do this. Like, we're going to keep this relationship alive. We're going to ask for a referral. We're going to make sure that we're creating an ecosystem here that is sustainable. Because who wants to go buy leads? I mean, who wants to go? I mean, yeah, it can work. And I've seen it, there's some that are really successful in the Smile and Dial and the BOR and all that. Yes. But once you get past a certain point and you're dealing with large commercial risks who are placing, $1 million, $2 million in premium, they are not doing that kind of, that kind of sales no longer applies. It's relationship based at that point.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you something about my experience, and then I have a follow-up question to it for you. So my first 3 agencies were on the captive side. Mm-hmm. And, you become a good producer, you love sales. And what happens is the captive carriers then, if you're good at sales, guess what they want to do? Hey, you want to be a sales manager? I'm like, okay, because they think you can now teach everybody to do what you just did.
Build your downline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically. And I said, hell no, I don't want to do that. I just want to sell. Can I just sell? I want to sell.
Yeah.
And so I turned down, I don't know how many sales manager positions. So I want to ask a follow-up question to that for you. In the independent world, whether it's personal, commercial, doesn't matter, P&C, agency owners, how many of the agency principals, because you probably know, I've talked to so many of them, how many of them are their best agency salesperson?
Almost all of them. It's got to be, and I don't know the statistics on it, but most of them, even when you get to the larger ones, the progression usually is sales to owner.
And probably especially when you get to the larger ones.
Yeah.
Because those are relationship based,
100%.
because they're dealing with the higher volume clients. So those folks hang in the same circles, it's kind of
they got
level by level by level.
We got an insureds that have been on our books for 20 years. And that have been with us for that, and they won't leave. And we've had some of those have grown with us. So some of them started as small commercial accounts with 1 or 2 employees, and now they're 200-300 employees, and they've stuck with us through that process. And I would bet that there's quite a few agency owners that have that same, pathway that we have. So. Right.
So I want to talk more about Irys because you brought it up. So Irys InsurTech. So Irys is going to be the trade name for an AMS, agency management system, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
And that'll come out this year?
It's coming out this year, so we're already beta testing a lot of the functionality. I said this on Tony's podcast too. It's so divisive, this term AMS. It's so funny to try to explain to people that are outside of the broker world what this actually means. But this term AMS, we have so many preconceived notions about what that is. And so it's hard for us to describe 100% to brokers what it is that we actually do. But the best way to describe it would be if you were able to have a CRM, an AMS, a lead management, and the service support service portal all in a single platform that you could then add pieces to that you needed as you went through, things like e-signature, or email integration, or VoIP, right? All of the things that texting. All of the, even ancillary stuff, if you wanted to do a glove box or Faro or any of these other point solutions that we are building the platform that allows you to do that easily without we don't have any friction there. We're not hiding our API documentation behind $50,000 annual contracts, which is pretty common. If you want to integrate, you have to use our services. We're saying no to all of that. And we're saying this is what we're providing. And if you want to add your own flavor to this, then we're going to allow you to do that. So yeah, it's a combination of, I don't know what our tagline will be for it yet, if it's AMS plus or if it's more than AMS or whatever it is, but it's a very divisive topic. Some people like to call it an AMS. Some people say don't call it an AMS. So who knows?
Okay, so those that don't know what Margaux's talking about, Irys, IRYS.
Yes, correct.
Irys.
Yep. And
not two eyes, but
yeah, and Irys was, so the name came from, it's got a little dual meaning. So Irys is the messenger goddess of the gods on Mount Olympus. So a lot of that was making sure that we connecting all of the gods, if you will, and making sure we had a single place to send and receive information. But as we built Irys, it evolved. So we really, like I said, dug into this idea of relationships and having a relationship-focused AMS. So being able to see really deeply into a customer and their journey, where they've been with you, where they've been in their journey, how they've been related to multiple things in your system. And so you got more of like the Irys, like the all-seeing eye Irys as a secondary meaning there. So that is where the name came from.
Who's the primary brainchild behind Irys?
Irys is me and our CPO, Lindsay Strong, who is a 22 or 23 year CIC, like veteran insurance, like walking encyclopedia. And she has managed large agencies, and just really knows her stuff. And then Craig Bernetti, who was the former VP of Varuna for 5 or 6 years. So all of us together kind of came through the consulting. So we were doing this consulting work and decided, like, yeah, it's time. We can provide something that's light years beyond what anybody's seen, and the three of us can do it. So it's been our brainchild.
Very cool. Where is Irys considered to be headquartered?
In Tampa. So Lindsay and I are here. Craig is in Boston, or around outside of Boston. And some, our core team is here in Tampa. But yeah, Florida, East Coast.
Still private or public yet?
We're private. Yeah, we're private. We'll be private for a while. I don't have plans to take it public. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. How many employees on board so far?
We have 5 full-time, right? So we're still small, but we obviously we've been in build mode. So we have been building and building. So we have dev teams that we have some nearshore and some offshore and a handful onshore. So yeah, we're growing by the day right now. It's very exciting.
And how long have you been in development mode?
Probably 12 months in full development mode. Again, that's deceiving, right? Because it feels like, 12 months is not a long time. It's not. But you're taking 12 months of building for what is, essentially 40 years of learning and understanding and designing and redesigning.
Conception took place well before that.
Before
so
1 year. Oh yeah, there was
forever.
much work done before that 1 year mark. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. So you're in beta now. Can I demo Irys?
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
You to that point?
Yeah, we're taking a unique approach, which sounds insane because it shouldn't be unique. But you can go to the website. I upload the demo videos. I've got tidbits of demo videos. I have no problem showing people our product and our vision. We don't need to schedule super secret 2-hour demos before you see the product. That's not the way that we're approaching this. So website, or I'm happy to demo. I am obsessed with what we've built. I really am. I cannot wait for other people to, I think once the reaction we've gotten in beta is like just jaw drop. Like, why hasn't this just been the way this has been that you built? Why can't we use this now? Why hasn't this always been how we've done insurance? And I'm like, I don't know, but here we are. And it's, the interface is so different than anything anybody's ever seen. It's very like mind map. You can see insureds and how they're related to policies and how policies are related to schedules. And it's all very like visual and easy to use, which is something, anybody who's using legacy tech can say, training users and getting them up to speed on how to actually just function in these systems has always been a bear of a task. And that was something we really wanted to tackle early on. So I love the way our system operates. I can't wait for people to see it.
Yeah, I could tell the passion just radiates with your voice.
Live and breathe.
You're live and breathe it.
Yep. To the point of insanity.
Do you sleep? Do you sleep at night, or do you have Iris dreams?
Oh, we have Iris dreams, and Lindsay and I will have Slack messages at 1 a.m. like, oh, you know what I just thought of? We didn't do this right, and it's like, oh my god, okay. Definitely Iris dreams. So.
That's when you know you're in it to do it the right way.
And you have a good team.
That's
which,
how you know.
Again, it's like when you look around to a lot of the solutions, I've always felt they're very like faceless, nameless, sort of soulless, right? Like who is applied, like who's the people behind it. Like same Vertiforce thing is a little bit better, but some of these that are they're very like soulless is the best word. Like, why are you here? Like, what is the passion? Like, what is the innovation? What is the drive? Is it just money? Because if that's it, that's a shitty, sorry, the language, it's a really bad way to do business. If that's the way that you're operating. And we don't have that same approach, obviously.
Would you call it traditional corporate America?
Yeah. I mean, look, also we're in different stages, and I'm fully aware, right? Like, I'm sure all of these companies had started out the same way, or hopefully they started out the same way, and they grew into something that felt more soulless. But this is 2023. There are plenty of large companies that maintain that integrity. And so I don't feel like that's an excuse. There's no excuse for that.
Right. Who's the prime prospect agency for Iris? I
think the agencies that will find the most value in Iris are kind of what we described earlier. They understand the value of the relationship piece and understand the value of knowing the client, of retaining and then building their book organically. And they're also very much invested in growth. So, and there are agencies that are transaction focused, that's not their goal. And that's fine. We're not going to fit every use case, right? But I hate to say like we're with agencies with 10 people and blah, because it's really more of a mindset. It's like if you have that same mentality of how you want to grow your business and how you want to maintain and then how you want to use technology, if that's your jam, we're like number one. If you're transactional and you just want a spreadsheet and you're fine with that, then I'm fine with that, and we're not your cup of tea. So
right.
Yeah.
So you're not going to say more personal versus commercial or vice versa? Or
I would say right now, like version 1, because we're startup, so there's going to be versions of Iris, and they're going to get better as we go on. Is P&C? It's very P&C focused right now. It's commercial heavy, meaning our first 10 lines of business that came out, 7 of them are commercial, 3 of them are personal lines. So you can transact, personal, home, auto, umbrella, all the forms on homeowners. And then we really focused on making sure that we actually rounded out the commercial side. So if you do write commercial, you're going to be able to track schedules, assets, you know what I'm saying? Those other types of things within the AMS that are typically left out, coverage and things like that. So that would be our subset of P&C, a good mix of personal and commercial. And then I got to tell you, we're getting hit up all the time to expand into life and benefits, and we've got some really big players that are pushing us in that direction. I would not be surprised if life quickly followed, and then group benefits, group health was something that we looked into in the near future as well.
Cool.
Yeah, would be great
something
if all
for
those,
everyone.
Wouldn't that be amazing though if it was all under one? Like, this is what I needed. We need to be under one system, at least where I can report off of what's going on across my verticals, right? So that's the goal.
Right, for sure. So at least for P&C for now, on the commercial side, not necessarily small or mid-market or large. It could be
It could be any. So
across the spectrum,
what Lindsay
right?
and I did is we were like, what is the most convoluted, horrifying process that we've ever had to go through to like write a policy? You know, like what are the big areas that are just really manual? And we started there and worked our way down. So if we can solve a super long, complex, you know, taking a trucking
Paper accords.
right, paper records, all that
Like
to market,
trucking.
managing 5 or 6 different carriers, and one of them's coming through a rater, but the other one's coming through a core, like, and then we have supplemental. So we took that process and we allowed Irys to do a beginning to end really seamless, and then we went back and said, well, we can do this. Then a monoline policy is super quick, right? Because we've built the process fast for this. And so we kind of worked, which I feel like is backwards, because if you look at a lot of the AMSs or tools that came on the market, they wanted to get to market really fast. So they did a lot of the easy stuff, like the low hanging fruit. Like it's really simple to quote a single vehicle or 2 or 3 vehicles or a single home. And that's fine. But when they try to build up to cover the rest of the insurance P&C space and try to manage those more complex commercial, that's a lot of times requires a technical rebuild, a new data structure, and a lot of work. And I think a lot of people didn't anticipate what that was. So we took the opposite approach and started with the most difficult and worked our way down, which was great. It worked well for us.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It sounds exciting, and we can hear it in your voice. This
Yeah,
is
no, I
be,
can't wait for everybody to see it. I'm like,
something worth
I'm on
waiting
pins
for.
and needles. Like I want everybody to look at it. So I'm happy to provide all that to you guys.
Is there an official launch date yet?
No, yes, no. It's probably going to be early July, but like I said, we'll be in the interim. Now we're testing this out with agencies just to make sure that when we do launch, it's a solid launch. That's a big requirement for Lindsay and I. So
Okay. What's been the biggest hurdle in getting Irys to market? Has it been data?
Believe it or not, no. I think for a lot of other AMSs, it's been data migration. That's because they had never done those prior to launch. We've done a lot of data work prior. I think our biggest hurdle is going to be mentally overhauling agency and brokerage owners to understand that they don't have to live this way. It's if you talk, when we're talking to them, you know, in sales calls and even just, you know, investor calls or whatever, it's like, they're like, we hate what we have. Like it pains us. Like we dislike it. We know it's broken. We know it's wrong, but we don't, it's like they're hopeless, like Stockholm syndrome. They're like, we don't see a way out of it. And so we'd rather stick with what we know, even though we know it's not doing what we need it to do. I think to me,
even if you give them the best sales job on the best sales job out there and say, listen, and you give them the best demo you've ever demoed, and they see, oh my God, light years ahead. We love it. We love it. Love it. What's the fear? Is it just the transition? The loss of data, the loss of functionality. What is it? What's driving their fear?
You would think that because that's what they say, right? Like, oh, well, you know, we've had a data, I tried and it was really bad and it was really hard. And you're like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. And you give them show them the guarantee. I swear to God, this is going to sound crazy. I think it's a mental block. And I think Legacy Tech has done a fantastic job of back channeling this idea of, yeah, we know you don't like us and we know we can't do everything you need, but we've been here for 40 years. And I think that resonates with insurance people, right? Like that resonates with the crowd. Why we've decided that this is the time for us is because I've seen that no matter how much free stuff they give away or how much they comp or how much they promise, there's a ceiling to that where the technology is so far behind that it doesn't matter how much you give me for free anymore. I can't use your stuff. And that's where we're starting to see that break. And I think generative AI, so this whole AI movement has just completely accelerated that train of thought, because what you will be able to use AI for in the next 3 years is going to have a huge divide on agents and brokers and carriers. The people that use it are going to be 100, 1,000 times more productive than those that don't. and the head count and the ROI. Like it's drastic, right? And you are not going to be able to utilize those tools if you are on those systems. Period. Full stop. You're going to get left behind. And there's no plan for those tools to be able to integrate that type of AI because they can't. And so what you're going to see is sort of this breaking point of the agencies that can embrace it in the next 3 years and the agencies that can't. I don't think there's anything that they're going to be able to offer that'll offset the return on investment that you're going to see through adopting things like AI. So I think it's a breaking point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My thoughts are, as I listen to you, is that the largest segment of ownership on the independent agency side in our country are the boomers, right?
Correct. Yeah.
They still are. They're not totally transitioned out. I'm a boomer and I'm still involved in agency. They're not. They haven't moved on to let the next generation become the top segment. But so there's so many of those folks that grew up even before. I'm one of them. I grew up before technology was a thing. Yeah. I'm pre-internet. So, I don't know if you know what they call it. Oh my gosh. 10 key punch card. This is back in like mainframe days.
Yeah.
Like from the 60s and 70s. So all these folks, what I'm getting at is all these folks have that sort of mentality up to this point. We use the term legacy, and I'm 48 years old. I'm 58 years old. I'm 65 years old. I don't want to deal with that now.
Right.
I see the end of the tunnel when I'm transitioning out. So I'm not dealing with that now. Sure, we have a perpetuation plan in place, and we'll have a 40 or 30-something-year-old taking over for our agency, but that's not for me. Yeah. So you're going to need to talk to them when they take over and when they get in my seat, and then they'll have a conversation, but not me.
Yeah.
Am I right? And that's how I'm seeing it with our industry, because I've been in our industry so long.
In the smaller segment where it's really still like agency principal and a handful of people, yes. When you get a little bit above that, I think they're a little more protective of what they have. And so they're understanding that if they're not increasing in sales, or they're starting to see loss to, like I said, to a Geico or Progressive or Hippo or Kin or whoever it is that you can go online and quote through, they're starting to see that attrition. I think we've seen some movement where they're like, ooh, maybe I can't wait. Maybe I can't wait 5 years or 10 years. Because then that's great. I'm skating by now, but what'll be left? And that's my whole retirement plan. Right? That's my whole plan here. And you don't want to watch that dwindle away because you can't adopt technology. Right. So I think it's more prevalent on the smaller end. It's probably less prevalent on the larger agency side. But I don't discount I don't buy into this whole like boomers aren't into technology. Like it may not be their comfort level, but they understand the use cases for it. Like they're not blind to the fact that, it substantially increases ROI and it can lower headcount and it can secure their future. I don't reject that they don't understand that philosophy. I think you're right in the fact that they don't want to be the one to do it. They want a more hands-off approach, right? So if we come in and say, we're going to do this for you, this is how we're going to do it, this is what we need you for, have a nice day. That's a different approach than what has typically happened, which is buys 10 of these little things and then figure out how to push them all together into a system that works. I think that's where they run into the whole, I don't want to do this. This isn't my job. I'm not interested. And they back away from it. So I think we're going to find success in having that other, that a different approach. But there's lots of you said it, but there are lots of family taking over for family members that are retiring. There's so much merger and acquisition happening. And these companies that don't want to deal with the technology are being gobbled up by the ones that do. And those people are still on legacy, and they have now a new problem where they have 15 agencies on legacy. And now what do they do? So I definitely think that there's a move in that direction.
So as soon as I said that, I knew I had a follow-up to it.
Okay.
I've talked with I've talked with so many agency principals, small, medium, large, who are saying those things, like, I don't want to do that now. I'm almost to the end of my career. The flaw with that is that they're leaving so much money on the table. Imagine what the value of your agencies could be if you embraced it and took the last 5 or 10 years or however many years you need to get yourself to the point where you are as most attractive as your agency could be to the marketplace.
100%.
I'm talking 2, 3, 5, 10 times what you're going to leave or try to take from what you think you have now to what you could have. And so that investment is going to come back to you so many more times over. And go buy your $25 million house on the coast of Puerto Rico and retire.
Is that your plan, Dave?
That's my belief.
You just let that slip? That's your exit plan?
I would just talk. You and I were just talking to Ariel, who's from Puerto Rico, and he was telling us about all the Puerto Rican stars who have these big houses on the coast of Puerto Rico on the golf course. But no, that's my thought. They are so flawed in their thinking, and there are so many consultants out there trying to convince them otherwise that you need to prepare your agency. If you're 5, 10, 15 years away, now is the time. Okay. And
that goes back to the mental block. It's a mentality. It's not a reality.
Exactly.
It's a mentality, which is
it's mentality.
You don't have to overhaul everything you know to embrace technology in your agency. The mentality is everything has to change right now, all at once, if I want to embrace technology. And we're saying that that's not the case. But it's a mentality. It's a mental block that needs to be overcome. And I think it's important to notate, too, that if your exit strategy includes selling your agency, if it's not a plan to pass down or to family, I would love to see some studies on this, and maybe we'll dive into it. But what agencies with technical tech stacks that are above average go for in multiples? And I can tell you that in my personal experience
That's a great question.
Doing merger and acquisition on this side and have sold and done on the other side, I have seen 2-3 times multiples for agencies that can accurately explain and or produce data about their book, about the projection of their book, about their retention, about their potential. Just being able to say this is concrete factual data about my agency, not something that's on a spreadsheet, but something that can be proven. I mean, I would love to see what the actual multiple. I personally have seen 2 to 3 times additional multiples for those agencies. So put it in place, even if you're not there to extract the full ROI on it, just for your mergers and acquisitions, guys. I mean, it's going to be an immediate improvement. So, yeah, that's my thought.
And not just for you as an agency principal, and your employees, but also for your customer base. They're going to have a so much better experience with you. I mean, that just fuels growth just on its own. So there's so many benefits.
Imagine
mentality. No convincing me.
I always use the example, like in my legacy AMS, I was listed as a driver on my husband's policy, right? Like, so if I called in and the CSR said, hi, how are you doing? They look me up and they see driver. What they didn't see was that under a different corporate name, I was a policy holder for 4 or 5 investment properties. I had a nonprofit. I had an LLC for GoGiles. I had a business in Irys. And so when those people are calling in and the CSR or customer service rep is talking to them, they're getting a treatment like they're a driver on a policy. They're not getting the treatment like they're a multi-million-dollar client, depending on how your system is set up. Mm-hmm. So think about how that affects the relationship that you're building with your clients. Like, it makes no sense to me why we have systems that allow for things like that. Like, why can't I just see me in all of the ways that I am related to this agency? Why does it have to be this segmented?
Personal lines can't talk to commercial lines, right?
I mean, and it's worse if you've got like life or health or benefits and a PNC. They're
for
always
sure.
completely stepped. So
Yeah.
I'm calling in about something, and you're treating me like a tier 5 client, but I'm, I'm a multi-million-dollar client for you. I mean, and it's not. It's just the reality of the way the systems are set up, and it's so inefficient. So yeah, that's my soap.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk about customer service representation. But yeah, it's a real problem.
Cool. Well, good luck with Irys. That sounds like just a cool project, and
yeah,
we can't wait to see what it's going to look like. So
pumped.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I got a couple other follow-up questions. So after looking at your LinkedIn profile, tell me about Zingo Tampa.
Oh my God, I knew you were going to bring that up.
Why?
Because
it
was
a funny story or boring or what is it?
It's funny. It's kind of funny. So I said I was a serial entrepreneur, and I am. And Zingo was a company that I opened in college. It was incredibly successful.
Scratch?
It was a colleague of mine who was at the time at the University of Georgia. And it started out as a way to curb drunk driving. So the goal was to get people to use the service so that we could drive them home so they weren't drinking and driving. And the way we did it was funny because this was way before like any Uber, any scooter, anything. I'm dating myself, but we would have these little scooters and we would drive to where they are and we would put the scooter, it folded up and it went in their trunk. And then we would drive them home in their own car because the biggest gripe was, I don't want to leave my car at the bar. I don't want to leave my car at the restaurant. I don't want to leave it overnight. I need it in the morning. How do I get there the next day? And so we provided that service, and it was huge. I mean, I think we had 12 locations. That was in all the major college towns. We were backed by Anheuser-Busch, and it was fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
20.
And it's app-based, right? Like Uber?
It wasn't app-based. This is a great story. So at the time, because like I said, I have a great skincare routine. I'm not as young as I look. But at the time, there was I think it was like the early days of iPhone. So there wasn't like an app like that. And apps were just kind of becoming a thing.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
at the time, it was just phone calls. So we were in the bars and restaurants. And we actually went to Anheuser-Busch and pitched a ride app. This was way before Uber, and was like, listen, they should be able to get this on their phone, see their driver, track their car. I think it would help, with retention and all that. And they were like, and I was 20 years old or something, and I was even old enough to be in the bars that we were servicing at the time. And they're like, who is this insane 20-year-old chick asking us for a ton of money to build a ride share app on the iPhone? None of them even had an iPhone, all the people that I were pitching to. And so they said no.
Back in BlackBerry days.
Yeah, it was what was the Nextels? Remember those? So
yeah.
So they said no thanks. We're gonna pass. And one of the people who lives here in Tampa, I see him all the time, and every time it's like could have been Uber. Like we were primed to take that market. And just fell short because somebody didn't understand the technology and didn't believe in it. So I took that we ended up exiting and doing a really good job on that company. And then I got into insurance because, believe it or not, we could not insure properly that company. So we actually had to go and petition. I think we were working with Mercury or Travelers or a couple of them to try to figure out how to insure that risk, right, of driving people in their own vehicles when they're intoxicated, which is always what you want to hear as a risk mitigation technique. But yeah,
that's quite a story.
It's a great story, and I learned so much in that company about like how to build the business and really how to build the relationships. But it's funny. So if you Google me, like you'll see it's like there's scooters everywhere. It's like pictures of me at 20 years old, like riding on a scooter. So
that's
have fun
hilarious.
with that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
You on LinkedIn also say that you're a Forbes author. What did you author?
Yeah, I've been writing for Forbes for the past year, mostly around InsurTech. So like how we're breaking into insurance is kind of the next frontier and has been for the last 5 years of breaking into technology, and we're forcing that to happen. So so I've got a couple published articles on Forbes that you guys can check out.
Was that intentional? Did you create those to be published, or did somebody find you and say,
no? So,
hey, will you write for us?
Yeah, no. I went out and set out and said, like, we need a. I really truly feel like the broker's voice is lost right now. I'm involved now in a lot of InsurTech that's just outside of just the broker and MGA and wholesale space, really into the carrier space. And there's so much happening. There's so much money and time being invested in, underwriting data and claims management and efficiencies and all of these, like, and then there's like, oh yeah, and broker stuff too. And you're like, no, we are 87% of the distribution in this country for commercial insurance. Like, we deserve a seat at the table. And if we don't get out there demand voice being heard, like, I'll do whatever, I'll wave whatever flag I have to, but you're going to listen to us because we drive your sales. We're your whole sales department, 100%, so that was part of that. Yeah.
Cool. Final question. You're going to have to tell this story about how you came to book a helicopter ride across town.
That's not even that exciting. So, it was like...
It sounds like it to me. So I never heard of this. I didn't know you could have helicopter taxis. Is it just a New York thing, or is it no other else you've seen?
I haven't seen it. I know that I think there's some LA stuff now, but in the big cities, I mean, anybody I lived in New York for a little while. Anybody who's lived in the city knows what a pain it is to get from any of the airports into the city proper.
So in this case, I don't know, a few weeks ago, you went from where? LaGuardia?
I was at JFK. I flew into JFK and I needed to get to InsurTech New York, which was, there was a big InsurTech conference happening on the west side.
Midtown Manhattan.
It was somewhere? Like Hudson Yard, like Chelsea Piers, so Pier 60. And I was in the airport. And
for those that don't know, you need to go from the airport to Manhattan.
It's an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, of a drive, and it's expensive.
Driving,
it's an expensive taxi ride too. But I was in the airport and I was like, do you want to take a helicopter instead of waiting an hour and a half and this like ad? And I was like, I'm a sucker for ads. Sure. So I called the number and they're like, it was $150. And the cab ride was like $100. And I was like, absolutely. I want to take a helicopter over, to InsurTech New York and make just like
for how long of a ride?
I think it took 6 minutes to get from JFK into the city.
Seriously?
6 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So like,
why would you not pay $50 more?
I mean, I'm sure I think I got like
an
entry. There's like an entry fee. I'm sure it's more than that, but
right.
I'm like going to be the spokesperson it's called Blade. I'm going to be the spokesperson for Blade now. They got so much insurance coverage from that helicopter ride.
So where you needed to go, where did they land a helicopter? I'm curious.
They had 2 spots. I think they had one down in the financial district and they had one around Midtown. And so you take it to one of their predetermined spots and then you can take a cab wherever you need to go. I think they have like white glove service too.
So are these like helipads on top of a tall building, or what are they?
The one I landed on was right next to the water. It was on one of the piers. It was just a helipad and it had a little, they have these little like lounges that were on like what are they, like shipping container, like nice shipping containers that inside had like a bar and like a waiting area and snacks and stuff. I was like, I'm sold. Like if I ever move back to the city, I'm 100% using a helicopter to go to and from the airport every time.
You already sold me.
I know,
6 minutes. Are you kidding?
I know.
So you actually landed on the ground.
We did. Yeah. I think that one lands on the ground.
Not on the 100th floor of a big tall building.
Yeah. That would have been cooler.
Very cool.
I think like a Batman landing, like, or something cool would have been awesome, but it's just a helipad.
Yeah, but then here on floor 100, it's going to take you half an hour to get to the ground level.
It's very true. Very true.
There's time involved with that too. So.
Yep.
That's such a cool story. I saw your video posted, and that it was cute, but it was also like intriguing. Like I don't remember my next trip to NYC, but man, when I need to get down to Manhattan from one of the airports,
why not?
I'm busting that out. Blade, right?
Yeah, Blade, and I think it goes down to that mentality of like, I could have been like, no, I'll take the taxi, but I was like, you know what? Helicopter sounds awesome, and I want to try it. just taking the risk.
And it's exclusive. You're the only passenger, right? Or can
they can have up to 4, but I had like a weird midday flight, so I was the only one. But I think you can be in there with up to 4 other people. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Luggage, all that, no problem.
Carry-ons only. So if you have big check luggage, I feel like I should just write I'm going to write a whole thing on Blade.
Right. See, this is just me. I'm just curious about it. It's
I'm going to tag
coolest thing ever
in this post.
Right. You need some affiliate commission on this one.
I want some insurance affiliate commission.
Yeah. No. Anyway, thanks for posting that because I thought it was cool as heck.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, we are at our 1 hour mark. So I want to thank you, Margeaux, for coming on with us today. Our listeners are going to enjoy your conversation. Yeah. And we look forward to the cool things you have coming down the road with Margeaux Giles and Irys and everything else you got going on. So,
yep. And I'll stay as a top contributor on the IAOA Facebook. So I'm there. I'm always giving inspiration.
You got the label, the badge.
I do. I have my top contributor badge.
Don't lose the badge.
I know
people talk about it.
That's great.
Cool. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it. Your listeners are going to love your time with us, and thanks for coming on. We wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to COLLABCAST with IAOA with Captain Dave Jackson. Production and distribution by Podsquad.fm, Riverside.fm, and Spotify for podcasters. Special thanks to Little Dog Social Media, Terry Champion, and all our guests and listeners. If you're an independent insurance agency owner, please subscribe to our podcast weekly. You can also request to join our agency owner exclusive Facebook group, IAOA, or Insurance Agency Owners Alliance at IAOA.com. Captain Dave Jackson signs out from sunny Hendersonville, Tennessee.